Well, when you're running in the winter, things change. You run with a different stride pattern, you run it with a different body position, and you run with a lot more clothing. That can have dramatic effects on the performance while you run. So you're going to be slower when you run in the winter, number one. Number two, you're also going to be exposed to the environment, and you have to factor that in as well so that you don't get frostbite. Yeah, so there's a lot of things that change when you run on a slippery surface. The first thing that happens, and there's quite a few, is that you shorten your stride. Instead of big long strides, you make them smaller and smaller, and that's so that you don't lose your footing, okay? So that increases your stability, and that's a natural thing that people do. So you have a shorter stride, slower speed. The next thing you do is you actually claw back with your legs. You pull your legs back faster to get them underneath your body. That's called the claw back. When you do that, your hamstrings can actually get aggravated because it's a different way of running. So you have to be aware of that as well. The third thing is you can run actually with arms out and shoulders up. And when you do that, you get sore shoulders and a tight neck, and you get a pain in your neck when you run. The next thing you do is you actually take your foot and it actually goes, you land it right underneath your body. Because if it lands in front of your body, you can heel slip, or you can actually slip in some sort of way. So you tend to pull your foot right underneath of your body so that you can maintain your balance. The next things that happen is when your foot hits the ground, instead of actually hitting the ground and having positive traction, it'll actually slip about a ½ centimeter every single step you take. And with 5,000 steps or more for, the typical run, maybe even 10,000 steps, that's a ½ inch of distance you're not getting each time you step. The next thing you do is you also tend to look down, looking for slippery problem sections when you run. And that actually changes your running status from actually one looking down like this, which is not so efficient, when you should be running up in the summer in this position. Those are some of the things that change when you're winter running. So you have to realize that it's all directed to slowing your body down when you're running in the winter. So if you have performance goals, running a 7-minute mile pace in the winter is a lot harder than it is running in the summer. So you have to factor that in when you're training in the winter for a summer run. So what I've got here is a summer running shoe, which is very light, and I think you can visually appreciate that. And I've got a winter running shoe that can be used on slippery surfaces, and then a summer trail running shoe. Now what you might see from this is that these two shoes here are pretty heavy. They're about 100 and some odd grams heavier than this one. So, and that's moving on your feet. So if you're moving these back and forth, this one's easy to move, this one's harder to move. That makes a difference in running. The other thing that you can see from this is that, or can't see, but I'll show you, is that when I try to blow through this shoe, I'm actually not getting any air through here, which means that when you're running with your feet, the cold wind isn't going to blow through and make your feet freeze. Whereas in this trail running shoe, you can actually hear the air going right through the front of the shoe here, which would cool off your toes, and then you get frozen toes. So what I have right here is a traction control device, and this actually just slips onto the shoe. And what you can see on the bottom of this contraction device is there's actually some really nice spikes on here that go on the front part of your foot, that when you're landing on your toes you can actually plant and propel yourself forward. On the rear part of your heel, you'll actually see these sort of spirally sort of gizmos that are there to actually allow you to get better traction so you don't slip on your heel. These add weight to your shoes, so they are heavier when you're running, but they do ensure that you don't slip and fall, and that you can run a little bit faster when you wear them. One of the differences in winter running versus summer running is the amount of weight of clothes that you wear. You're going to wear a lot more clothing when you run in winter in -20 in Winnipegs. If you take a look at all this right now, that weighs a little over 2.7 kilograms, almost 3 kilograms. Now the other difference is, when you sweat when you're running, even in the fanciest gear, your sweat stays on your body. So you might sweat 1 liter per hour of sweat when you're running. Imagine this and a liter more of water or sweat on top of this. You're going to be carrying that with you throughout the entire run, and by the end of the run, you're going to be weighing 4 kilos more than you would have when you started. So it's about 30, maybe even 40 seconds a mile slower to run in the winter than it is in the summer. That's a very significant difference. You can still train hard, but you should be using other signals like heart rate or things like that, your exertional level while you're running, as opposed to the running speed. Many of us have GPSs nowadays, and you're looking at your pace and saying, I'm not going fast enough, I'll never make it. But you're still getting good training in the winter here, it's just that you're not running as fast.